Hi, I'm Rohan Raj. I am a risk management and security operations consultant based out in Manila, Philippines. I work across 7 countries, including Southeast Asian countries like Singapore, Malaysia, Philippines, and also India. My core specialization is risk management, security operation, and of course CMDB, which is the heart of both the solutions. And then the business outcome that we can achieve with proper implementation, planning, and strategic vision is that we can move from strategy to system reality really fast. And then we can also create decision oriented models that allow us to make risk related decisions very fast. Now let's move into today's conversation. So today we'll focus on one of the regulatory frameworks that has been introduced by SEBI in 2024. This generally applies to the regulated entities or companies like NSE, BSE, asset management companies. SEBI's Cybersecurity and Cyber Resilience Framework, which was introduced in 2024 with the objective of moving from a static security posture to more of a resilient mindset. Let's talk about operationalizing resilience, a strategic roadmap for SEBI CSCRF compliance. No, I'll not be using CSCRF, it's just the cybersecurity framework from SEBI. We'll talk about three key components. One would be a high level mandate, a on ground paradox that we'll talk about, and a convergence of three functions that hopefully solves this problem. And I have seen this in reality. Today we'll cover just two mandates. One is 6-hour incident reporting onto the SEBI portal, and second would be 3-day asset update. Now, both of these mandates has to be operationalized through a combination of people, process, and technology. People should be skilled enough to be able to perform an action. Process should enable people to have less turnaround time, and the technology should be able to detect, to report, and to do things that technology is supposed to do. For example, if I say 3-day asset reporting, it essentially means that if I have a server in my data center and that server is updated, it should reflect in my inventory in 3 days. Let's say patching of a server. Now the OS has been patched on the server. If the OS has been patched, then OS version has changed. That change should reflect in the asset inventory as well. Does it happen on ground? Maybe, maybe not. I'll Based on my experience with one of the regulated entities in India where I worked for around 18 months, it's tricky. It's a tricky question. While it may seem like a yes or no question, on ground reality is a bit different. Then let's talk about paradox, right? So there is IT, there is risk, there is security operations, and then there are manual things. Now there are so many back and forth. Everybody maintains its own source of truth, and at the end there is just one response that goes from the regulated entity to SEBI, and to really reach to that one response, it's a nightmare. And I'll also talk about some of the tangential elements here and there based on my experience in a regulated entity. But again, that is simply for illustration and may not have happened in reality. Now, let's move on to the convergence part. We'll talk about how ITAM, IRM, and SecOps come together to reduce the turnaround time. That is one. Second, instill confidence in the stakeholders themselves that the data that they are looking at is correct and is trustworthy and can be scalable as well. Let's move on to the next slide. So, with this framework that was introduced in 2024, SEBI has tried for a paradigm shift. So, from more of a parameter defense, we are now talking about goals like anticipate, withstand, recover. So, the essence is of resilience, right? So, from a protection mindset, we are moving towards a resilience mindset that say a security threat happened to manifest, how would we still function and how would we recover and make sure it never happens again? So the component of evolution is also there. And then it talks about continuous monitoring, things like RTO, RPO. I'll make a specific note here, which is SEBI has been quite, let's say, forward looking in a sense that they are also anticipating threats with regards to quantum computing and then guiding the BFSIs or the regulated entities at least to look in that direction. I'll not spend too much time here. There is a 200-page SEBI compliance framework that you should read if you are in this space. Let's move on to the next part. So this is the paradox, right? So we talked about that there are these functions, but they do not talk the same language. I remember one instance where the question was that what is the criticality value of an application? Now, IT operations had a different answer to that question as compared to risk management, which is a blunder in itself because these definitions are in policy documents. Those policy documents are approved by the board. Now imagine a board of a regulated entity has approved something and the definition, the on ground understanding of definition has drifted away from that policy document, which is a risk in itself. It's operational risk in itself. And then, so many excels going from here to there, creating the entire excel trap. And I have seen teams or even functions going away from an automated tool back to excel because somehow they trust excel more. And I don't say it's their fault. I also trust excel more because I'm doing it, I have control, and I can manifest anything I want in excel. And in the system, there may be system components beyond my control. So there is the Excel trap that is there in regulated entities, and that has to be fixed. Before we go on to the golden convergence of three functions, let's talk about the brutality of new times. Now, brutality is like this. So you have 3 days to update your asset inventory. You have 6 hours to report your incident to SEBI, and you have 2 hours of RTO. If we go even further, the RPO is 15 minutes. So you cannot lose in an event of a security incident, you cannot lose data for more than 15 minutes, essentially making backups mandate for 15 every 15 minutes, right? So these are the brutality of the new times, and compliance is no longer about intent. It is more about velocity. It is more about having the vision aligned with on ground reality with speed. Now let's talk about the strategic convergence, right? A self-healing posture. So ITAM talks to everyone. Now ITAM as a function exists in all companies. I have also seen at places where they outsource ITAM to some other company. In my view, that is one of the reasons why there is always a risk to the security posture of an organization, because ITAM is a core component. If you outsource ITAM, it is essentially that you are outsourcing your eyes. If you're outsourcing your eyes, your ability to see, your ability to identify, then it's a real problem from a risk management perspective. So ITAM talks about how many critical assets I have, how many assets I have, and it has been a real pain area, especially for BFSI in India and also in Southeast Asia. It's same across at least 6 7 countries that I know. Then we talk about IRM. Now IRM would be the brain or the decision making part, and then we have the SecOps, which is the immune system, so proactively detecting everything and then taking action. This is the action part. If all these three come together, then your ability to report compliance becomes smoother. You are more confident about your security posture, and then you can make informed decisions for future as well. I'll just take next 2 minutes to talk about ITAM and then I'll end this session. So this is ITAM, and it is the golden source. Again, I'll use the statement that I have seen companies outsourcing ITAM to third party, which is like outsourcing a problem to someone. It's never a good idea to outsource a problem for someone else to solve. You can outsource scaling, you can outsource managing, but you should not outsource solving a problem. And ITAM is a real problem in a lot of companies that I have worked with in past. So you cannot protect what you cannot see. So idea is that ITAM, IRM, and SecOps should come together in principle so that SEBI compliance is implemented, and we can say with confidence that we are compliant and we can make good decisions going forward. Thank you so much. Please feel free to ask any questions if you have. I have implemented I have implemented the SEBI compliance framework at least at 3 places. Let me know if you have any questions and feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Thank you so much.